good evening, everyone, and welcome to this month's segment. We have a special segment lined up tonight. I have one of my favorite mental health professionals with us again this year, Miss Crystal Brown. I'm so excited for her to be here. We're gonna have a really awesome conversation about attachment on tonight. So I'm really excited that she'll be sharing with us so we can grow in all of our relationships, right? So I really want to welcome you on tonight. I invite you to throw questions in the chat. If you have any that come up, make sure that you throw them in the chat. If we don't get to them, I promise I will get answers from her after the segment and we can share those responses then later. All right. So the purpose of tonight's segment is focused on mental health. Mental health is really big in this nation, especially since the pandemic. And a lot of us, sometimes we don't take our mental health as seriously and it impacts our lives indelibly until we seek support. So the purpose is to share information about different topics that relate to our mental health to help us to grow, to help us heal, to help us move forward the best ways that we can to be the best that we can. All right. I want to share our mission on tonight. And this is the mission of the organization. And you'll see that we try our hardest to stick to this mission, but we kind of have added in a few components, and that is very intentional. We focus on little people. When I say little people, I mean primary age children, ages 3 to 9. However, they go back into families, and so we have to make sure that we have programming and supports that are family friendly so that those children are growing up in an environment where they have whole parents and caregivers, they have whole siblings that are contributing to their lives, that are impacting their lives. All right. So the mission of Little Hands, Big Hearts Little People Service Organization is to develop little people and not so little people and now their families into servant leaders who think beyond themselves for the greater good through explicit and intentional opportunities for character development, selfless service to others, and community based volunteering. All right. So that's a little bit about us. If you've never been a part of anything that we do invite you to become part in the future. And so we're going to move on to introducing. I'm going to share a little bit about her. I met her quite a few years ago, I guess about 5 or so years ago, training for trauma responsive care. She is a licensed clinical social worker. She works in the school system here in Jacksonville and an excellent mental health professional. She is, I believe, from Louisiana, right?
No, here, born and raised here.
Born and raised? Well, she has this
Hmm.
Southern Belle thing going on, y'all. Y'all will hear her talk and just you'll hear it come out. But just a joy and just so pleasant. She's an AKA, and for the past 2 years, her and her team have invited her sisters have invited myself and the organization to participate in their mental health awareness month activities. So we're kind of building this partnership, and I really appreciate her for joining us on tonight. So I'll let her share a little more about herself because she is a wealth of knowledge, and you'll see that on tonight. So, Ms. Crystal, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Oh, thank you. I want to thank Dr. Nikki for inviting me again. It's a pleasure to be here with you all. As she stated, I am a licensed clinical social worker. However, my heart is in social work. I have been a social worker for 36 years in Duval County Public School System. I've been licensed about 30 of those years, and I have also become a qualified supervisor where I have interns who are studying to be clinical social workers. I help them through that process. Uh, I also teach at FSCJ in their social work program there, trying to make future social workers. So I got my hands in a lot, but my heart is in all of it. And so I just am grateful to be here and to share what I have to give you all tonight. And hopefully you will learn something from it and we can move forward and just make sure that we embody and increase our emotional intelligence around mental health. That's what we're here for, and hopefully answer some of your questions about a specific topic that we're embracing on tonight. So, welcome and thank you again for having me, Dr. Nikki.
Absolutely. Thank you. So I kind of want to share a little bit about how I became aware of attachment, and then we'll move into our questions. So I
Okay.
became a practitioner of trust-based relational intervention back in 2021. This is trauma responsive care. And one of the requirements was that we had to have an attachment inventory completed on us, right? And so what they did was ask like a litany of questions. This is about a 3 hour interview, and just going through question after question after question, and you have to kind of expound on your relationships, different relationships in your life, and all of that. And at the end of it, now at this point, I had been through active counseling for 3.5 years to heal from childhood traumas. I was an active participant in it, never missed a session over that 3.5 year period. So I really took my mental health very seriously, right? So I'm thinking, I'm going to get this response at the end. You made an A, like you can't make A's, B's, C's, or whatever. But in my mind, I'm an A plus in attachment. That's what I'm thinking. And we get to the end of the attachment inventory, and the lady says, "Wow, I could really tell that you've done a lot of work. And, I'm so proud of you. But it seems that in this area regarding this person, that there's still some work that needs to be done." And I could have spit bullets at her because I was like, "I know you lying. I done did all this work. I know she lying." And then when I began to process the information, process what she said, and consider the person that she was talking about, I began to
Mm-hmm.
see that there were some areas that I still needed to heal in, right? And because I was unhealed in those areas, the interactions that I had with this person were very, very um, inconsistent, right? And so where one minute will be good, one minute, I'm ready to fight, right? And so that is one of the spillovers when you have not earned secure attachment. Life
Mm-hmm.
kind of happens to all of us. And because it does, that's where our attachment gets impacted. However, you can move from insecure attachment into secure attachment. That's what we're going to get into tonight. So just
Right.
kind of keep that in mind and don't feel bad about anything that you hear as far as your attachment is concerned. We have a professional here because she can explain it way better than I can, but ask the questions, right? And do a little digging, be honest with yourself, right? All of us should have relationships that we want to make better, especially if we say we love the person on the other end of the relationship, right? So just be honest with yourself, take the information, and let's grow together. All right. So, all of that said, Ms. Crystal, talk about what attachment is. If you could just start us off with the definition. What is attachment?
So, everything goes back to our family of origin, so to speak. Your attachment style reflects how you behave in your relationships and the quality of bonding that you experience during your first relationship. And your first relationship is often that with your caregiver. And in Western culture, that's often mothers. So we'll say, anywhere from 90 to 95% of the first caregivers in Western cultures are mothers. But it can be other people in the family as well. So it determines how you relate to others moving forward as you grow and as you develop through adolescence and adulthood. Um, when we look at it, the age range from about 6 months to age 2 years is when that bond develops with your caregiver. And if it develops into a secure attachment moving forward, your relationship should be emotionally healthy, all depending on what you experience throughout life. So there are a lot of factors that mitigate secure attachments and attachments that are not as secure. And there are three other types of bonding relationships that can happen, attachments that can happen. And we can get into those. But with the secure attachment, it creates a situation where you are able to emotionally regulate. Your self esteem is high. You tend to problem solve a lot easier. There are things that you can mitigate a lot easier in terms of life skills, just getting through one stressor to the other. So when we have secure attachments, we have emotionally healthy relationships. Now, when we have attachments that are not so secure, they are three different types. Do you want me to get into those now, Dr. Nikki? Okay. So, anxious attachment. Anxious attachment leave us with low self worth, self esteem issues. In anxious attachment, we are resistant, we're clingy, we have relationship insecurities. And moving forward, our intimate relationships in adult life can bring about problematic problem solving, um, in terms of intimacy, in terms of self regulation. We tend to find that our self worth is low. That's a little bit about anxious. The third one is avoidant. Avoidant, we tend to avoid any type of emotional distress, or we want to not necessarily involve ourselves in emotional feelings. We tend to struggle with being available for others. We're uncomfortable with our emotions. We minimize our partner's feelings. We're very independent. We're people who have avoidant attachment tend to think, why are you feeling this way? Why can't you just, pull yourself up by the bootstraps and move on? They tend to not want to be involved in emotional distress or emotional healthy relationships because they don't want to address emotions at all. And then we have disorganized attachment. Disorganized attachment are emotional swings between love and hate. These individuals have a lot of negative behaviors. This is where you may have experienced some kind of trauma. Um, your caregiver may have abused or ignored you. Disorganized attachment styles are very significant in terms of emotional distress. So, all of these different styles tend to contribute how we function in our adult relationships, and they're much more expansive. There are other, um, traits that we can get into a little bit deeper with more discussion.
Thank
But
you.
those are
Thank
the
you for
different. Oh, you're welcome.
so can we jump into, and you kind of hit on it, but just expound on why it's important for us to understand attachment? Because a lot of people, may look at it like, well, it's just, I am how I am. That's something we hear when it comes to mental health. This is just the way that I am, but you don't have to be that way. And I think that's the purpose of tonight. You don't have to be insecure attached if you're willing to do the work, if you're willing to get the help. So why is it important that we understand attachment styles?
Well, once we know better, we do better, in all areas of life. Our attachment styles to individuals and how we bonded with our first caregiver matters in terms of how you function in your adult life. If you find that you want to change how your relationships are, there are things that you can do to make that happen. Um, you just need to be much more aware, self-aware of how you interact with others. um, you need to have some sense of self-management around your own emotional regulation, and you also need to make sure that if there's any trauma or any significant negative impacts that have happened in your life, that you heal from those, because we can't do better with others until we do better with ourselves. We have to make sure that we're in a good space of emotional regulation before we can even begin to have healthy relationships.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to type and throw it in the chat. That was so good.
Okay,
We can't do better with others until we do better with ourselves. So, what would you say to
exactly.
the person who maybe has experienced, this is literally all of us. So I don't want anyone to feel singled out. Trauma is not a respect of persons, right? There's three categories of trauma, and any one of those can hit our lives. Any, one of the subcategories could hit our lives, So to the person who maybe has experienced trauma, but they would sooner not address it, not deal with it. They kind of put it to the side because, well, oh well, life goes on. What would you say to that person, in terms of healing, in terms of acknowledging what they've experienced, if they say they want healthy relationships?
I would say first look at your outcome. Look at where you are. If you are in a space that you are not pleased with who you are and how you're functioning, then at that point, that's when you decide that you want to do something about it. That's becoming self aware. Having experienced any type of trauma is going to affect your day to day function in your adult life. Um, Bad things happen to good people all the time. Just because something bad happened to you does not make you a bad person. Have you made decisions that you would have done differently? Yes, we all have. So when you look at it, it is definitely a sense of self worth, self esteem, and how much you really are wanting to invest in yourself and self care. The healing from trauma is definitely a huge self care issue. It's one of those things where, like I said before, when you know better, you'll do better. But until you know who you are, till you know what has happened and how it has affected you, then it's hard to move forward. And it's hard to tell a story. It's hard to trust in someone to tell the story. So when you are telling your story, make sure that the person that you are telling the story to can relate and have empathy and understand what your journey is like. um, have that person experience the same thing? No, probably not, because your story is your story. Two people can experience the same exact issue and it affects them differently. So your story is your story, and whoever you tell your story to needs to understand that. So trauma, affects us all very differently. Um, and trauma can be expansive, and trauma can also be things that are uncommon to some people but was your norm. And whatever your story is, it's okay. It's your story.
I love that. So I know this isn't our question, but I know you can handle it. Kind of expound on trauma. I know there are three different not three types, but three categories, within trauma. But just kind of give an example of uncommon experiences that someone may have experienced, and it became their norm, but it's not normal. So, what are some things that people can look
um
for in their own lives?
a lot of times, we can look at childhood sexual trauma and say, a child was sexually abused, and we've heard that many times. We've Until sometimes that has become common. One particular incident, a family that I was working with, it was a lot of um, incest and molestation among family members, which is something that we don't hear a lot, especially in our culture. We don't talk about it, but it happens. So when you think that it's uncommon for you and it has become your norm, just know that somebody else probably has experienced a similar event. But here again, your story is your story. Um, we have situations where children who have had to take care of younger siblings to the point where they were primary caregivers. And that can be very traumatic because that person was not allowed to be a child themselves. They experience a disconnect, a disorganization of bond forming with their primary caregiver, and they themselves became a primary caregiver as early as 6 and 7 years old. That's a lot of responsibility for a young person. So that bonding did not happen for them, and their primary caregiver was not available. And we have situations where primary caregivers were there, but they were very mentally and verbally abusive to their children, which create another disorganized or anxious attachment. So there's a lot of different types of things that happen with us as young people, and it carry us through our adulthood, and it affects our relationships wholeheartedly.
So, so good. So I want you, if you don't mind, kind of talking about you lean into it. So what she was saying was adultification of children when they
Hmm.
are made primary caregivers, for other siblings. And sometimes life happens, where you have to kind of look out for each other. In the case of a parent dying or something like that, you just kind of grow
Hmm.
closer because you experienced a loss. But if you could just talk a little more about adultification and why that how that impacts our attachment. You did lean into it, but just expound a little more if you
Hmm.
don't mind about that, what that looks like.
Well, it's quite normal for siblings to have to look after siblings. I mean, that happens. You have older siblings who look after their younger siblings. Even in my own family, I have two older girls who looked after their younger brother, and we joke around how one of the girls is his second mother. But those kinds of things happen, and that's pretty normal. But when we have situations where siblings as young as 6 and 7 years old are having to take care of 2 year olds, and they're feeling the responsibility of caring day in and day out, that is an adultification that when those children become older, they have significant relationship bonding issues with their partners. They have a hard time of being available emotionally to their partners that's not in a parenting concept. They tend to want to be rule makers. They tend to expect their partners to fall in line. And that causes a lot of relationship issues. So, not all trauma is hurtful in the sense that it's a physical trauma, or it's especially when we're looking at children, um, all different types of repercussions happen in terms of adulthood, and how our relationships with other adults become affected by how we were raised and how things happened in our childhood. So trauma takes on a lot of different forms. Did I answer your
Um,
question?
you did. You absolutely
Okay.
did. Thank you. And thank you for, veering off to you just bring up so many more questions.
Okay.
Keep
I
you going
tend to
with
do
the
that.
flow.
I go off on tangents. Sorry.
No, I'm going off on the tangent, but it's a good tangent. So we're going to keep going.
Okay. Okay.
So how does our attachment style impact those that you've already kind of leaned into it, but
Mhm.
maybe let's talk about different dynamics, maybe with the spouse, maybe with our children, maybe with our coworkers or our parents. How does our attachment style, when it's insecure versus when it's secure, impact those relationship dynamics?
I think sometimes when we're insecure, we have unrealistic expectations of um, other adults in our relationships. Sometimes we expect our partner, our romantic or intimate partner, to be available 100% of the time. We expect them to give all their attention to us. We expect, when we have insecure attachments, we have these unrealistic expectations of others. In families, we have unrealistic expectations of other members when we have insecure attachments. In our workplace, it same thing. We have unexpected real expectations of other adults when we have insecure attachments, because we're trying to get certain needs met, and we want other people to meet those needs that didn't happen in our first relationships or our first attachment bonding. When we're anxious, we We want that attention. When we avoid, we want to not be emotionally bound in terms of expression of emotion. We want everything just to be okay all the time. When we're disorganized, we go back and forth. We're clingy. We love. We hate. We don't know what we feel, and we want the persons that we're projecting those feelings on to just pretty much step in line to what we need and become very selfish around what the person can actually expectation that they can meet for us. It becomes at the end of the day, when you have those type of relationships, it's draining. It is very draining on the other person, and you wonder why things are not working out. So I always say, look at your outcomes. Look at your where you are. Are you pleased with where you are? Are you pleased with the relationships that you have? Are the people in your world happy because you are a part of their world? You have to look at your outcomes.
So, so good. So we have a few comments. I'll read, I'll share those with you. Bowie Speaks said, definitely a great point. Unrealistic expectations, especially in families and when dating or sometimes with spouses. Um, So when Cloud and Crew said, and with siblings, it looks like my way is the only way when you have that insecure attachment. And
Mhm.
we have great examples. So thank you for sharing the examples that you shared. And this is so good. So if it's so good, make sure you hit share. Make sure you are liking, loving all of that, the segment. And let's grow together because we really want to work on healing our families. You know, family is the
Mhm.
foundation of society, and we have so much brokenness, and it plays out in every area of our lives, how we treat people, the value we see in people and what we don't see, and so let's grow together, let's heal. So
Yeah,
thank you for
definitely.
those.
You're welcome.
And I wanted to talk about, if you kind of talk about so this idea of building secure attachment, and it begins with um, this constant serve and return. So this loop of when I express, my needs and whatnot, those needs are being met. So can you? Maybe this is a vague question, or we can bypass it if you want. But just working towards building secure attachment. Talk about how that relationship dynamic probably should look, or what are some characteristics of repairing attachment styles to bring about healthy relationships.
Well, I think first of all, you have to look at the insecurity in in yourself. What attachment style are you leaning towards, and what do you see? You have to heal your trauma. Nothing happens until you heal. Whatever it is, and sometimes people think that trauma has to be this huge gaping void that happened in your life. And a lot of times it is. I'm not trying to minimize it because we all have what we have. So, but sometimes what we think was traumatic may have been just a culture or a way of living, but we are responding to it traumatically. So, whatever it is, you need to heal from it. Whether you're angry with your mama because she didn't do this, or your daddy because he didn't do that, or your grandmother, or a neighbor, or you felt like your siblings. Most of the times we can look back to our family origin and see where the breakdown in an attachment happened. um, I tell my students all the time, most things go back to your family of origin, whatever your family of origin is. So that's the first thing, is to heal. Um, Once you are in a space where you are healed, then you can then decide how to proceed with self awareness, self love, self management of emotions. You must emotionally regulate yourself before you can regulate anybody else, or regulate your relationships. because we do try to regulate other people. I guess I shouldn't say regulate other people because you can't really do that. You can regulate your relationships, um, but it has to be in a healthy way. It has to be in a way that is productive for both people or all parties involved. When it's not, then you have dysfunction, which we often do have in families and friendships. And so those things are necessary to have healthy relationships. Those things are necessary for you to be in a healthy place. Nothing happens until you are in a healthy place.
So good. So you talked about regulating, we try to regulate the person, but we really need to work on regulating the relationship. What does that look like? Because some people may not be able to distinguish the two. Like I would imagine most of us, if we're not in the field, we can't distinguish the two. So what does that look like
Well, I think
in a healthy way?
to put it in layman's terms, when you enter a relationship, when you join an organization, when you become a part of a group, do you add to the relationship, the group, or the organization, or does the organization add to you? If you add to it, whether it's a relationship, group, friendships, then you are in an emotionally healthy place. If you need for it to make you, then you need to look at your dysfunction. To put it in terms to where people can understand, you are the vessel in which you are being productive. You are adding to. You are bringing light. If you are in a place where you're always needing and receiving and it needs to light you up, that's a problem. Can we get those things from other people and other organizations and groups and interactions? Yes, we but that should not be our everyday functioning. Our everyday functioning should be able that we add to, not that things need to add to us to make us survive. That is not emotionally regulated in terms of healthiness. I believe.
Oh, she's stepping on toes tonight. Somebody throw ouch in the chat. But it's a good ouch. It's definitely a good ouch because it's gonna hurt to heal. If you're not hurting while you're trying to move forward and heal, then you probably aren't doing it right. So just take it for what it is. Take this nasty medicine, but it's good for you in the long run. Okay.
You got to look in the mirror. You got to take a good long hard look at what it is you're actually giving and receiving.
So if you we got an ouch. So so if you can, and you've already leaned into it, but I think I want to really put out there when two unhealthy attachment styles come together, and they say we want to be in love, we want to be married, we want to make this thing work, but you have an avoidant attachment on one hand, and then you have anxious attachment on the other, and you have this, push pull kind of thing going, and then you have this clingy on a push pull, right? What are some of the outcomes for a relationship with like that, or just if you could talk about that a little bit?
That the outcome for that is probably I never want to predict disaster for anybody. I never want to say that that's not going to work because that's not true. You can make anything work if you are willing to do the work. And a lot of times people are not willing to do the work because they haven't done the work on themselves. Um, and I can speak from personal experience. It takes a long time to be able. I shouldn't say it takes a long time. It takes a lot of work to do the work. Um, Whether it takes you a long time or a short time just depends on you and how willing and how quickly you can move through the process. And what is the process? The process is different for everybody. Therapy helps a lot. It does. But sometimes therapy, I think people think that therapy is the magic pill, so to speak. But it's only a magic pill if you're willing to swallow it. If you're not willing to do the work, it's not going to work. If you're not willing to be transparent to yourself, people they say a lot of times, "Oh, I didn't tell my therapist. I feel bad because I didn't tell my therapist." Well, guess what? Your therapist doesn't know if you're lying or not. You know if you're lying or not. If you are being truthful and transparent to yourself, because your therapist is going to expect that you're telling them the truth. So if you walk in the door deciding that you're going to present a certain picture and it's not the actual picture, then what are you doing? We lie to ourselves all the time. Oh, I'm in therapy, but are you being transparent and truthful? Are you being as self-aware as you can be? It doesn't work. So unless you're really willing to do the work, and no matter what your attachment style beyond secure, it's going to not produce the outcome that you want. It may take a day, it may take a year, it may take 10 years, it may take 30. But if you are not truthful to who you are, your outcome will not be what you want it to be.
Woo, so good. That's all I got. So good. So good. So it begs of us another question. Honesty. Talk about how important it is, and you've already leaned into it, but just
Mhm.
expound a little more. Like you have to be honest with yourself if you want to heal. And I think a lot of us walk around and I'm okay. No, it's
Mhm.
nothing wrong.
Mhm.
You will I'm okay yourself to death, like literally holding on to stuff that you really can release if you go through the process, you do the work. So
Right.
maybe talk about just encouraging people, like let it go. And not to diminish anyone's experiences. That's not what I'm doing. But
Right.
if you want to move forward, you have to do the work, like she said. So
Right. And a lot of times, when we say we're okay, we want to believe that. And most times in the moment, we are okay. Being okay is is a concept that eludes a lot of us in terms of what it actually means. And what I mean by that. Okay. So let's just say, for instance, that you uh are experiencing some emotional distress, and you feel the physicalness of it. You have a headache, you have a tummy ache, you're tired. A lot of times, stress manifests itself in physical symptoms. And then you say, okay, I'm gonna get myself together and I'm gonna feel better, and you do the things that you do, a little self-care, and you feel marginally better, and then you decide that I'm okay. Well, are you really okay? Has that little thing in the back of your head gone away? Has that tummy ache, really, that anxiousness, that feeling in your stomach really gone away? Or have you just pushed it aside so far you're ignoring it? We're really good at ignoring the physical symptoms of our emotional distress, and that leads to a lot of other problems. So when you think you're okay, do inventory and look at your physical self and see if you are really okay. The other part of that is that when we are talking about being honest about being okay, we got to be honest with our part in what we're feeling not okay about. And what do I mean by that? Well, all of us, if we've experienced some kind of trauma, we probably engaged in behaviors that were similar, or behaviors that were not probably productive for us. You have to own that. You have to own what part did you do, in terms of not necessarily your trauma, but in terms of how you behaved around your trauma. What did you do to create and add to your distress? Things happen to us. Bad things happen to good people all the time. And we actually sometimes fall prey to engaging in some of the same behaviors. And we don't take ownership of that. As an adult, when you become an adult, you have to be accountable for everything that you've done and created. So you have to be accountable for your behaviors, even if it's related to your trauma. Even if it's related to your trauma, you can't say that it was the fault of X, Y, and Z every time, all the time. Even the little 1 year old know when they've done something wrong. We know when we've done wrong. And so you have to be honest with yourself when you have contributed to the behaviors that you're engaging in. Because if you're not, you're going to pile on more and more dysfunction. So healing is not only addressing your trauma, but also addressing if you play any part in contributing to the continuation of that trauma. And I know a lot of people don't like to hear that. And I'm not blaming the victim for anything that happened to them. But we do have to take ownership of our behavior. And when we do that, we grow. That is the hard part. That is definitely the hard part.
Ooh, all right. We cooking with hot grease. We- So I would like for you to please, if you could share a little more of those physical manifestations of stress, because some people may not be aware they've been in that survival mode for so long. They've been in that insecure attachment space for so long that is normal for them to, always be like their mind can't rest or their body is
Mm-hmm.
tired.
Mm-hmm.
So, can you share more examples of what it looks like for stress to be in your body, so people can have a clue of what to look for and why and understand further why you need to get help if you need
Mm-hmm.
help?
Well, I can say probably most of us have experienced a heartbreak. Okay, if you've ever experienced a heartbreak, your heart literally hurts. You probably have felt that pain. You think it's an emotional pain, and it is. But some of us have felt that physical pain. So let's just expound on that a little bit. If you have felt that physicalness of a heartbreak, if you have day in and day out stress from work, family, um, relationships, and you have the heaviness in your legs, you have the muscle fatigue, you have the sometimes I just can't eat, sometimes my gastro is acting up, sometimes on both ends I can go, I can't go, and I'm keeping it real, in terms of what happens once you rule out that there may be a physical reason for all these things. The stress every can create symptoms in every system of your body, from your endocrinology to your immune system to your gastrointestinal to your nervous system. Stress can create symptoms in all of those areas. And when it does happen and you can't find a physical reason, it is very hard for people to understand that it is a psychological, psychosomatic, or whatever term you want it, mental issue that is creating these physical issues. And this is when you need to look at that self care and that mental health. Um, and if you are having physical issues, say you have high blood pressure for whatever, say you have, an immune issue, or say you have some kind of disorder, that in itself can create stress. That can affect your mental health. So stress and medical are always related, and your mental health, it plays a very important part in how you handle both areas. So just make sure that you look at all areas in terms of mental health, physicalness, and stress. They're all related. And trust me, I can tell you from personal experience, it's all related.
Thank you for that honesty. Thank you for that explanation as well.
Mhm.
So, again, we've kind of talked through most of the questions, but I would like to expound on them a little more. Please
Mhm.
love the broadcast. Everybody do it now. Please, please, please. And I'll save that question for later. What are some things that we can do to earn secure attachment in our various relationships?
I think probably the most important thing you can do to earn a secure attachment is self-regulation. Just monitor yourself and make sure that your expectations are within reason, and make sure that you are healthy in terms of how you function in your relationship. Um, and and the self-awareness, I can't that that is a big issue. You constantly have to take your temperature in your relationships. Am I being reasonable? Am I being unreasonable? Are these expectations that something that the other person can meet? Is it, and have these conversations with the other persons in your relationships. um, Emotionally regulating yourself is the biggest gift that you can give to yourself and the people that are in your life.
Sorry about that. So good. So we're coming up on the end of the segment. We've had a really, really good conversation. And thank you for all your insight. From the comments, it looks like this is really, really hitting home with plenty of us. And that's
Mhm.
exactly what I wanted to do, because I don't think a lot of us realize how important it is to be aware of our attachment styles. We kind of just dawdle through life and, I'm good,
Mhm.
I'm okay. And we really aren't. And what's impacted in the long run are the relationships and the quality of the relationships that we have. So, thank you for that. As we are moving towards closing, how would you suggest that someone begin working towards Earn Secure? What are some things that they can do? Um, Maybe they don't want to see a therapist right now. What are some ways that they can become aware of what their attachment is at this point?
Um, well, of course, in this society, in today's world, we have everything at our fingertips with AI, Google, the internet. I'm a little bit older, so I kind of am a little hesitant sometimes around those things, but they are wonderful tools. There is a website called attachmentproject.com. If you go on there, you can take their little 5-minute quiz, and it can give you some insight to your attachment style. If it bothers you or you want more information, of course, seek out some professional help. If you need to just have a few questions answered, I would be more than willing to have a conversation with anybody. I don't want anyone to leave here and not be able to get information. And if you need to and you want to have a conversation with me, that's fine. I mean, I'm just here to help as many people as I can and however I can. Answering a few questions won't take a whole lot of time. It's just what I do. So I'm not saying that you become a client or anything. I'm just saying that if you have some questions, I'm willing to answer them. So just make sure you seek out information if you need it. Um, yeah.
So, as you all can see, she's an excellent mental health professional. She does have a private practice. And I did ask her if it's okay to share her information. If you would like to get in contact with her, she did say yes. So, I'll throw that in the chat shortly. Are there any questions about attachment that maybe we didn't answer, or is there anything that audience wise that you all have questions about? We have about 3 or 4 more minutes. And if we don't get any questions, we close it out. And Miss Crystal, while we're waiting to see if anybody has anything, you have any final words that you want to share?
Just make sure that you take care of yourself. Just make sure that you look at your outcomes and how you're functioning in your relationships. And if it's not what you want it to be, then Go do better. You have the information. You can do better, and there are people out here that are willing to help you do better. I don't have all the answers to everything, but I can help you with your journey. I will help you find the information, and I will help you with your journey. Um, the answers are out there. Every problem has a solution. We
Mhm.
just have to find it.
I love it. So I don't see anything else. We did. I threw the website in there again. I'm gonna throw her email. It's okay to share email, right?
It's okay to share my email. Yes.
All right. This is her email. If you would like to contact her via email and ask a few questions. Now, don't be coming on there asking 10, 15 questions every week. That means you do become a client. So pay that lady her money. So with that, I don't see any more questions. We have a response. Very good job. They really enjoyed this. So thank you for making this a very worthwhile segment. I think we do pretty good every time, but this was really good, really, really good. And I hope that we have all learned something to grow um, and become better in our relationships, right? We deserve to
Right.
be the best that we can be, and the people who we say we're in a relationship deserve the best of us, and vice versa. It's not a one-way street. Both of us need to be better for each other, but first for
Right.
ourselves. Yes.
We do. We do. Take
All
care of
right.
yourself.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. And she keeps saying this self-care. And I guess that would be, maybe you can just share a little bit about self-care. That might be my last request. Just the importance of it is very important to practice self-care. But I'll let the expert tell about it.
Well, self care is a concept that we think that, if we go, take a little bit of beauty time, or we take a little walk on the beach, and those things are self caring. I'm not trying to minimize those things, but you need to make sure the things that you do for self care don't cause you any stress. Sometimes we take a vacation and we put it on our credit card and it's causing us stress. Sometimes we involve other people in our self care, but they are stressful to us. Don't do that. That is not self care. Self care is doing the things that are good for you and good to you, whatever that is. As long as it does not cause hurt and harm to anybody else, there is no judgment around what gives you self care. I particularly like to lay on my sofa and veg and watch TV. That is self care for me because I can shut out the world for a few minutes and nobody can judge me for that. Nobody can judge you for whatever you do for self care. As long as it does not cause hurt and harm to anybody, it brings you joy, then you do it. And you need to do it often and frequently because it will help you get the outcome that you're looking for. When you take care of yourself, you will be better and you will do better.
You heard it from the woman of the night. Woo woo. So that is all for our segment. Thank you all for joining us. I'll share that we have a few things coming up in the month of June that we would love for you and your little and not so little people to be a part of. Our end of the year celebration is on the 20th of June. If you have not RSVP'd as of yet, please, please, please do so. The deadline is coming up, and I will not accept anyone RSVPing late, only because I have to plan. I make sure I got enough food for everybody, chairs, and all of that. And we love to RSVP late. Let me tell you, you can't fit me in. Not this year. So RSVP on time. The deadline is on the flyer. If you've seen it, honor that, please. We also have our college tours for the summer. We have about 10 locations lined up for this summer. So if your child is looking to go to college, this is also a pre exposure, early exposure opportunity for little people. Our primary, focus age, 3 to 9. As long as they can go to the bathroom, I don't mind them going, right? Um, so this is a pre-exposure opportunity for them to be in the place to see what college looks like and to kind of put themselves in the place of being a college student. So we think now for later. We're planning now for later. So just keep those things in mind. If you would like for them to be a part, if you would like to be a part as a parent, you're more than welcome. I do ask that you serve with us because that's my way of kind of vetting people to see, how people act. I am responsible for everyone that's a part of this organization, everything in everything that we do. So I have to know, how you behave and how your baby behaves, before I take them out of the city. All right. So it's a matter of safety for me, for my organization, for all that we stand for, and I will not negotiate on that. So keep that in mind. If you have any questions that come up later about tonight's segment, you can email info @littlepeopleserving.org. You can email Ms. Crystal directly. I did throw her information in the chat. And also, you can look her up if you're looking for services and don't feel bad about it. Please embrace support if you need it on Psychology Today. And you should be able to find her as a provider if you would like to seek support from her as a mental health provider. So, that's all I have. Thank you all for joining us tonight. I really appreciate you. Thank you, Miss Crystal. This was a very
You're
good
welcome.
conversation, and I appreciate how you handled all the side questions and everything. Thank you so much. And with that, I will say good night, everyone, and you all have a wonderful night and start to your summer break for the students. They are out of school now. Parents, it's on you. It's fully on you. So y'all have a great summer. All right.
Good night.